Welcome to the Valorous Circle podcast, where we interview local businesses and have them share their stories and their tips about what's made them successful in their industry. Today, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to talk to Robert Freeman of Above Roofing as he shares with us how he started his business over 23 years ago and how he's managed to be so successful as well as build an amazing team. Join us as Robert shares some amazing wisdom, not only about business, but what to do when you feel like you're ready to give up. Thank you for joining the Valorous Circle podcast. Today, I'm talking with Robert Freeman of Above Roofing. I've known Robert for a number of years, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to him today as he shares some tips about how they've managed to grow for the last 26 years and become one of the leading roofing companies in West Michigan. Robert, thanks for taking the time to join me today.
My pleasure.
Let's get started by just telling everybody just a little bit about yourself and Above Roofing, where you're at today, and then we'll kick back and take a look at some of the history as well. But tell us a little bit about who Above Roofing is today.
Okay. So we do pitched roofing shingles in the greater Grand Rapids market. We'll go out to the lakeshore. We have around 24 employees. We also work with subcontractors within their specialty. We've been doing this for 26 years. And we worked out a great system for consistency and quality and for customer service.
Awesome. So, Robert, tell me just a little bit, how did you get involved in the roofing industry 2.5 decades ago? What caused you to pick the roofing industry?
Yeah, I would like to say that the roofing industry picked me. I tried to get it, and sign was much cleaner, but I did a roofing job and people kept calling me so I'm like, why fight the tide? I'm just going to just go along with it. And so we began to more or less specialize in pitched shingled roofing.
Now, you mentioned pitched shingled roofing, and while I've known you for years, I don't know a ton about the business. Does that mean you don't do like metal roofs and commercial roofs? You're really focused on the what I would call as a consumer a sloped roof with asphalt shingles. Is that it then?
Yeah, but there are pitched sloped shingled roofs that are on commercial properties. We actually do work with a lot of condos, schools, churches. And then if there is like a small flat roof, we can do it. We can tie it right into what we're doing. But if it's large, what we do, we got several large flat roofing companies that we hand out their name for the client to call.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, I know you've been a tremendous resource over the years to a lot of your clients. Talk to me a little bit about growth. Obviously, when you got started, and things have changed a lot since then. And I know a couple of years ago, you guys built and moved into a beautiful brand new building and that. But talk to me a little bit about some of the early years. What were some of the things that were struggles early with Above Roofing as you were launching that business? And the reason I ask, Robert, is a lot of the people that watch the podcast are other business owners, they're entrepreneurs and people like that. And we love to hear how maybe you overcame some struggles, and maybe we can even get some tips on, boy, Robert did it this way. Maybe that'd work in my business. Can you share any of those things that may have been some struggles that you overcame?
Yeah, sure. The biggest struggle that we've had was when you first start now, I think of the book E-Myth Revisited, where you're good at your trade, you're really good at the flashing, whatever it is that your skill set is, but that doesn't necessarily lend itself to growing the company. And so there is new skills I had to develop. And I do have a philosophy, it originates from the Bible, that you surround yourself with good advisors. And it was the advisors that point out some areas where, hey, you might need some improvement here. Yeah, and so I've been challenged. You've been a part of that with Scott Goss with Mastermind, and just being challenged. There is the part that I may have contributed is maybe my humility, realizing that, I'm a part of the success. I'm also a part of the hindrance of growing. And so as you grow your company, as the owner, you're pretty much having to grow yourself. You got to be a continuous learner. You've got to read. You got to have humility. You got to think of excellence. Just a 1% improvement over a period of a quarter. If you can build upon that another 1% and another 1%, at the end of 10 years, you're twice as good as what you were, hopefully.
That's great advice. And you're right. It reminds me of many of those mastermind conversations we've had over the years as we've been involved in some of those same groups. And I certainly can attest to you've always done a great job of demonstrating that humility and helping even myself as I was growing my business, because we're not nearly 2.5 decades old. We're just over a decade. And being that example of, wow, we need to, as business leaders and entrepreneurs and founders, we need to sometimes get out of the way, because oftentimes we are the biggest impediment to our growth,
Yeah.
especially if we surround ourselves with great people. So great share. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and those great people need to feel comfortable at saying something. You don't want a yes man or a yes. So that does bring up the issue of culture. What type of culture do you have? Are you able to bring up stuff to your boss? Are you able to have a dialogue that is maybe not that comfortable? And that's, I would say, another big part of the culture is a part of our. If you don't have the right people, we can lose everything. We can lose our building, our nice new building. But it's not our building. It's not our trucks. It's not our equipment. It comes down to the people. And so we consider ourselves in leadership almost like an upside down pyramid. So the higher you go up, the more people that you serve. And
No, it's a great
that's our
analogy.
main principle. Yeah.
No, and that makes so much sense. It's really so true across the board to see that. How did you at Above Roofing, how did you instill that culture? And maybe even prior to that, how did you determine what you wanted that culture to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's something where maybe a lot of companies fail. It deals with process. There's a specific process that we've gone through. We follow Traction. That's another book that I would recommend that owners would read. The process, basically, our business coach at the time brought us through thinking of, okay, who's your best employee, or your group of employees that work the best? What are their attributes? And so you boil down, you relate what attributes they might have in common, and you might come up with 20 words. Don't stick with 20 words. You got to boil that down to 5, 7. If you get it down to 3, that would be awesome. And then after that, now when you hire, when you let people go, when you do performance reviews, it's going to be part of it's going to be based off of the culture. Our particular culture spells ethics. It's a acronym, and it stands for excellence, teamwork, humility, integrity, cares for others, and strong work ethic. And as a matter of fact, when we hire people, the very first contact we do, it's a phone interview. We interview for that culture. And if they don't meet our culture, it doesn't matter what mad skills they have, they just don't make it.
Really good advice. Really good advice. And correct me if I'm wrong, Traction, that's part of EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, correct?
Yeah, yes. Strongly recommended book. Hmm.
Good, good. Thanks for sharing that. That's really helpful. And I can imagine that probably also helps you nowadays in the employment climate we have, where it's hard to get good team. I'm assuming that culture has definitely helped you get the right people, not only at Above Roofing, but also the right people in the right seats at Above Roofing. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah. So you help get the right people. Performance reviews don't necessarily stop there but there is most definitely less drama. There's less tension, unhealthy tension. There's healthy tension, but there's unhealthy tension. There's much less of that. And then, yeah, so we don't just stop at culture. Part of being the team member is, again, one of our culture words. And that means that you develop your skill set for whatever specialty whatever area that you're in. So if you're a salesperson, your craft is selling. If you're a technician, then your craft is working on the roofs. And together as a team, we're all within our specialty. Yeah, that helps out quite a bit too. Reminds me of another book. Okay, I'm not
No,
selling
you're
all these
good. Go.
books. There's a book called Chess, Not Checkers, and I forget the name. It is one of the VPs to Chick-fil-A. Basically, when you're first starting off, it's like you're playing a game of checkers. Each piece has the same specialty. They are, in general, I shouldn't say specialty. Each piece has a specific value, and the pieces are interchangeable. As business goes on, you realize I'm not playing a game of checkers anymore. I'm playing a game of chess. And as a manager, what you need to do is say, okay, for each individual piece, what unique contributions can this person do? Because a great tech on the field doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make a great salesperson or a great manager. And so you've got to look at your people differently. And I know there's a thing in the news where you want to treat everyone the same. And I'm not a proponent of treating people the same. People have unique skills and gifts, and you really have to treat them according to that, their gifts, their skills, how they contribute. And some contribute more, I think, than if you're a salesperson and you bring in more, you should expect more. I don't know if that's where it's meaning to go with that.
No, and these are designed to go wherever, and that's part of the fun. I think it's really intriguing. I agree with you on that. It's while we want to be fair to all of our teams, everybody has different personalities and different needs. I know even internally at Valorous, we go through the DISC profile, personality profiles, and
Yeah.
what a difference it has made to us to know that I need to communicate to somebody who's a high D like myself differently than I do somebody who's an S or a C. And our team has shared with us that has proven to be really valuable because it helps them understand the best way to communicate with the rest of the team. And it's proven to be really valuable overall. So I really do appreciate you sharing that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, great things about Above Roofing and reasons you've grown. So obviously a lot of really good information about what's helped Above Roofing grow. And I think those are some tremendous insights. As we take a look at that, how does that translate to your customers as to why choose Above Roofing? I mean, as a business founder and a leader, I can see while tremendous value in that, making Above Roofing a much more reliable and responsive and trustworthy, credible company to deal with. But how does that translate for your customers into how does that give them a better experience and a better value by selecting you over your competitors?
I'll bring in culture again for this. You hire people that not care about their salaries, and of course they do, and their family. We're talking about a general sense of caring. So where when you go out to a person's house, and if you're the salesperson, you care about giving them the right product that they need. If you're the tech, you care about doing the job. And so the culture helps out quite a bit. The other thing that helps the client out quite a bit is consistency. So there's a lot of roofing companies that can do a great job, but how consistent are they for each of the jobs? And so we have processes, checklists, accountability. We're a big believer in accountability. When we were a smaller company, the accountability was easy. I was the person on the roof. I was there with them. I knew what was promised. We say the salespeople are the promise makers and production is the promise keeper. But as you grow and your sales is different from production, there's a higher level of communication that needs to happen. Production needs to know what the promises are, and sales needs to know what product capacity and capabilities are. You want them on the same plane. So we have systems in place for that. So we hire the right people, we provide the systems, we have the right tools, and because of that, we provide a consistent quality product, which is roofing for us. And there's times you mess up where something happens. We just take care of it. We go back and take care of it. As a matter of fact, most of our referrals comes from things to where we had to go back and take care of it. And I think people are a little surprised. They thought they had to argue with us, or they thought they had to come up with a case. And no, they call us up and say, hey, they have a problem. We go out. If it is us, we admit it, and then we take care of it. And I think people are relieved.
I think that really goes to the integrity that you talked about, and definitely I think in today's culture is a surprise. Candidly, we're not used to people taking responsibility for things that didn't go. I know I've often used the phrase with a client, letting him know that, look, we're human. At some point, we're going to take perfect aim and shoot ourselves in the foot. Everybody will. The difference is that company of character is going to stand up and go, you know what? We did mess up, and here's how we're going to fix this. And hopefully here's what we're going to change so it doesn't happen in the future. So huge kudos on that. That's a great way to look at things.
Yeah, thank you. And you're right. And you have identified it. There's 2 points. One of the points is, what am I going to do for this client? And the second one is, what am I going to do for my future clients that this doesn't happen again? That's a really good point that you did.
I think it's especially important, again, as business leaders, unless we want to deal with the same thing over and over again and keep beating our heads against the wall, which none of us want to do. Then we've got to take a look, not only how do we help the customer today, that's imperative and that's highest priority, but then how do we go back to our organization and our team and say, okay, what caused this to happen? Was it a one-off that happens occasionally?
Yeah.
Or more likely, was it something that our systems failed in some way and that we can add a check and balance, or we can add something else into our process to make sure that doesn't happen again to future customers?
Yeah. That does remind me of, I know you have your questions, but that does remind me of something else. You have two different people going through an experience. And if you have one of those two that, oh, I went through it, I won't do that again. And then you have the other person that had gone through it, but they reflect about what went wrong. I would argue that the one that had reflected has more experience than the one that said, "Oh, I just won't do that again," because of the reflection. I think they have more experience. Sure, they have the same amount of time. They went through the same experience. You would say, "Oh, they're equal in experience," but they're not. One person is thinking about it, learning what specifically went wrong, where the other one is walking off maybe having the wrong issue or the wrong solution they come up with. It reminds me of a story how, is it Mark Twain had a cat would jump on the stove in the summertime,
Hmm.
and then come winter time that thing was burning hot. The cat jumped up there and burned his feet and never went on that stove again, regardless of season. And so I think there's in leadership in particular, that when there's a mistake that happens, you look back and you say, okay, how did I contribute towards this? What could have I have done? And then learn specifically, and then grow and adjust from that. Don't run from it. Don't make a blanket statement, but learn specifically from your experiences.
No, it's tremendous advice. And yeah, I so appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I can't even begin to express how important I agree with you. And I think that is it. We do take a look at that. And even if in the moment we can't evaluate and we just need to be reactive, it's so important that we go back and relook at that situation to fix it on an ongoing basis. It's not only for ourselves, but it's so important for our team too. And the last thing we want to do is have our team having them in that situation where they're having to go through repeated frustrations and negativity because of a poor system or just a missing step that could have resolved that.
Yeah.
So, a great share, Robert. I really appreciate that. Back to the business a little bit. I obviously we're all in business to make a fair profit, and that's part of why we're here. But apart from profit, why are you in business? Why are you doing what you do?
Boy, that's a hard question. I use profit as like the scoreboard, but it's not my main thing. I don't Money doesn't make me happy. I've once heard money doesn't buy happiness, although it can rent it for a while. Just as a
That's
joke,
great.
I'm in business. I like strategy. I like to develop people. And so there's strategy in business. Are people, I love to invest in people that are worth investing in. Yeah, for those that have potential. I just love having investing. It's like how I consume my consumerism. I like to buy good deals. And right now, one of the best deals is investing in someone who has the right culture, who has the right mindset, and there's a return on training. There's a Just like how you would look at return on investments. There's return on, do I get this truck or not? But there does seem to be a fear about, oh, if I train my guys, they're going to leave and start another business with. As your employees become more valuable, yeah, you do need to pay them more. And hopefully you have a good culture to where they enjoy coming into work. Yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, which is not even really a Mexican holiday. It's more of an American holiday for Mexicans, but more for Americans. And we had lunch together. We had a potluck. They came in, were able to have some laughs. We just enjoy each other. So there's a level of culture. But for me, again, yeah, it's not about money. It's about serving purpose, protecting our client's most valuable asset. And it's not their house, it's their home. House is made of 2x4s and drywall. A home is where you create memories. And so I, I would have to say it deals with other people. And that's my purpose.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That it definitely fits with what I know of you as we've gotten to know each other over the last number of years, and it certainly fits in with that very much. Going, keeping in mind, know that some of the people that are watching this are other business leaders. Some aren't, but some are. What would be the best piece of advice, Robert, that you could give somebody in terms of overall business strategy for somebody that was getting started in a business, or maybe that has gotten started and it feels like they're just not making progress? What's one piece of advice you might share with that budding entrepreneur or business owner?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I think my advice in general changes according to the person that I'm talking to. But I think universally this is what I might say is that surround yourself with other people, other leaders. You're gonna be and be careful with who you surround yourself. You gotta guard your heart. Don't make it about money. Whatever flows from that, whatever's in your heart is gonna come through eventually elsewhere. So guard your heart and be careful if you're hanging around with other people that are also, let's say they're negative, you can't do it, maybe take a vacation from that person. Hopefully it's not your spouse. I'm not talking about that. But surround yourself with good advisors. Be positive. Go for it. And don't be afraid of failing. As a matter of fact, fail. Go out and fail some. If you're not afraid of failing, and then you're probably going to succeed, because most people don't even get to success because they think they have to have everything 100%. No, you don't. You don't have to be 100%. Just learn from your mistakes. Go on. Don't get too prideful. Don't think you're the best person on the block, and continually improve yourself. Read. Yeah. I as a whole mixture of stuff. I just made a whole
Yeah,
mixture of stuff.
but
Scaled it up advice,
great
but
stuff. Great stuff. It reminds me, I actually saw a meme yesterday. I don't remember exactly where, but it basically, if I can summarize, said most people look at change and see risk. Entrepreneurs look at change and see opportunity.
yeah.
And it reminds me of that. And I agree with you. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is to know it's okay to fail, because if we don't know that's okay, we're never going to try in the first place. So incredibly important. Great answers to stuff, and you've been a huge help. A couple questions that are just a little bit more fun. One in particular is, I'm sure in the roofing industry, you've had a few bizarre things happen over the years. Can you think of a bizarre story that you've had while working in the roofing industry that's family friendly, but any bizarre stories that you could share with us at all?
This is from another contractor. The bizarre stories I have are from California.
Imagine that.
Yeah, one of the owners over. I belong to a group. So by the way, I'm mentioning being a part of the mastermind that we were a part of, and then having advisors and reading. But part of the advisors that I belong to is a group of other roofers, and so one of the roofers in California was doing a sales presentation and was talking about her cat. And as a salesperson, he asked, well, "Hey, yeah, it sounds like a wonderful cat." And then she says, "Would you like to see him?" And he says, "Sure." That's what a good salesperson says. Yeah, I'll see your cats. That's important to her, so it's important to him. So she walked him out to the garage and opened up her freezer, and there was her frozen cat that had died months ago. And
Wow.
so he's, oh, then he told me, he said, "Oh, would you like to see my cat?" And then she says, "Yeah." Then he went to his truck and drove off. I suppose there's probably a moral to the story. This was a story that I was told, but I would like to add on my own moral to the story is just because someone calls you to be their client doesn't mean you have to accept them to be. And if you see someone's crazy, if you're dating them, the sales appointment is like you're dating. If the date's
Yep.
not going well, don't get married. Run away. There's
No,
other people that you can do estimates and work for.
more great business advice. I think that's definitely a question I learned during our mastermind time together, which was that not every opportunity is a good opportunity for the business. And that's okay. It doesn't mean anything negative about the other people necessarily or anything else. It's just sometimes it's not a good fit, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But it's important to be able to identify that. I can't imagine nothing quite that weird. I did have a sales call in an entirely different career, probably 30 plus years ago now, where I walked into a couple's house to talk to them. At the time, I was selling insurance, something that was a very short lived stint in my career. And I walked in and realized that their pets were goats, and the goats were in the house. And it was made for a very, when they say, "Would you like to sit down on the sofa?" and there's goats running around, okay. It
Think
was
twice.
very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things we also love to do, which is totally random and done on purpose, is we love to ask just a random question, Robert. And so I use a site literally called randomquestionmaker.com, and I go out and I pick a random question. I know you're totally unprepared for this, but we love to ask anyway because it makes it a little bit of fun. So the random question that came up today is, if you were in a witness protection program, what would you want to do and where would you want them to make you live?
What would I want? All right, so I get to choose. Okay, so someplace where I'd want to live would be someplace warmer. This is interesting. That's an interesting question. What would I want to do? I think I would want to, boy, what would I want to do? Let's see, what do I like to do? And I would have to make money through this, right?
It did. We can be pretty creative here. They didn't leave many angles here. I suppose if you're in witness protection, they may provide income. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but it's, you want to be one of those guys running the parasail boat down off the beach, or a little bit more basic?
I do like variety, and I think that's what's stopping me from answering that question. But and then also I like to travel. I suppose I would say they would make me a travel agent to where I would have to go test the areas out, and I would be flown around in different areas, checking out the hotels and around the world. Yep, that's what I would do.
That'd be a pretty good life. I like that. Good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer. Again, Robert, thank you so much for your time today. I took a lot of your time, and you just provided some immense and amazing insights. So really thankful for that, for your time. And personally, I want to just thank you for the opportunities we've had over the years through the mastermind to get to know each other. You have always been a tremendous guide and resource as there's been options, and you've been so willing to share your experience, and that's so valuable. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. That's how I feel about you too, Jonathan. Thank you.
On a serious note, let me encourage you that if you live in the West Michigan area and you need roofing, Above Roofing is an amazing company to deal with, and is certainly someone that I'd encourage you to speak to if you've got a roofing project. I've known Robert personally for many years, and he means what he says. He has integrity. He has the qualifications and the experience, and his team really does an amazing job. If you'd like their information, you'll see that next. Make it a great day.